for joining us this year on our Contessa $5 Club Block of the Month. We are so excited to get started. This is the first month. I'm not going to do show and tell this morning because we have a lot of little details to go over. So I'm just going to dive right in and get into the Block of the Month Club. So excited that you joined us. A couple tips I like to remind you: when you start a new project, remember to start with a new spool of thread in both your top thread and your bobbin thread. We used a light gray throughout this entire project. Gray oftentimes comes out almost as an invisible color, so it's a real good color to use when you're using lights and darks like this. So I suggest a gray thread. Remember to change your needle. I know we always think, oh, I just changed my needle or whatever, but I think most of the time we forget to change our needles unless we've actually broken one and need to. But oftentimes you'll hit a pin and not change your needle, and that will affect your sewing and the tension of your thread. And so if you every time you start a new project, if you change the needle, then you're always going to be in good shape. I recommend either a Sharps 8012 or a Universal 8012, both great needles. And also remember to change your blade. We need to take good care of our tools to do a nice job in quilting. And a blade is the same thing. We often think, oh, it's doing fine, I just have to trim a little snag here and there. Our blades get old, and the more we use them, and if there's cuts in our mats, they don't cut as nice. So it's just a great idea every time you start a new project to change your blade. And if you haven't gotten a new mat in a while, I would suggest a new mat also, because you're putting a lot of time and effort into this quilt, and again, the better tools you use, the more precise your project is going to come out, and that's important. I would suggest for this project having a few tools on hand. I'm going to show you a couple tools throughout the demo, but I'm just going to mention them. One thing I would really recommend is either a small mat that you can rotate or a rotating mat. If you don't have one of these are amazing for trimming up and squaring up things and cutting small pieces, so you'll really enjoy that. Or even just one of the ones like this. I believe this is a 18 by 12 inch mat. And again, on pretty much any size table, you can slide it around. Remember, the less you move your fabric, the more precise your cutting is going to be. So just that's a good tip. These are nice tools for this quilt. And even just an inexpensive little one will work for you. The other couple tools that I would suggest is if you have a small ruler for cutting small pieces, I would recommend that. This is a 4.5, which is a nice size for this quilt, but even a 5.5 or a 6.5. So if you don't have something smaller than an 8.5, I would actually suggest purchasing one of those. The block lock rulers for half square triangles are going to be a must for this quilt. You're going to love it. And if you haven't used the block lock flying geese rulers, you will also enjoy those very much. Both of these rulers will really improve your accuracy. They're worth the investment. So just a couple, none of these things are necessary, just a lot of tips to help you do a nice job on this quilt that you're putting so much time and love into. So now I'm going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. What you got in your first packet is a beautiful picture of your quilt. This is Contessa, the quilt that you're making. On the back side of that is a color chart. This is a very useful tool throughout the quilt. You're going to want this by you. It shows pictures of all the blocks you're going to be making, and very nice color pictures of your fabrics and the black and white color codes for your fabrics. And this is a necessity, so keep that handy. You're also going to get a page that says general instructions. This has tips on making your half square triangles and squaring them up. It also has tips on making your flying geese and your directions for your strip piecing and also your half rectangle triangles. And don't worry, each month we'll be giving out tips and ways to make all these pieces easier, but you need to keep this handy. The next page in your book is actually this month's block in your packet, and it is this one here. That's the directions you're going to use to make this block for this month. And after that are some confusing things. So you're just going to set these pieces aside. Remember, our patterns come with complete instructions for making either a throw quilt, a queen size quilt, or a king size quilt. You are getting enough fabric to make the king size. If you choose to only make the queen, then you will be using some of these instructions. If you're going to go along with us and make the king size, you're just going to set these aside and keep them for later on. Maybe you'll want to make this quilt again. This is the throw instructions. Just set that aside. And all of these, page 22 through page 29, in fact, through page 31, those are all making the queen size. So just set those aside and keep them for later. Page 32 has instructions for making the throw pillow. So that's just a nice accessory for your quilt, so hold on to that. And the back side of your pattern has all of the fabric requirements if you decided to make this again. So we're going to concentrate just on that second page in there that said page 1, and it says diamond ends 8.5, and that's what we're making this month. You are going to take that and follow the instructions for the hourglass. We're going to start with a half square triangle to make our hourglass. I'm going to give the camera a second to catch up with me here. So we're going to start making a half square triangle. Use your favorite method for making half square triangles. We like to use the quilter's magic wand because they come out accurate each time. What you do is you place your two fabrics right sides together, usually your light on top. Place your magic wand right in the center of that square and draw a line on both sides of your magic wand. You're going to then stitch on the lines that you just drew, and that creates two half square triangles. You're going to cut right down the center where you stitched. Here's my first half square triangle and my second over here. Okay? I'm going to take those two half square triangles and I'm going to put them seams together with my dark fabrics on opposite sides. So I've got a dark here and a dark here. My seams should just nest right in the middle, and going the opposite direction, I'm going to do another half square triangle. So I'm going to mark on both sides of my ruler, and then I'm going to stitch on those lines, and now I've got two hourglasses once I cut those down the middle. Now that I've made my hourglasses, I need to square these up. They need to be squared up to 4.5 inches square. You can use a 4.5 inch ruler to do that, or you can use the block ruler. The great thing about the block ruler is this ruler will actually catch right in the seam of your hourglass, and you can slide that to the exact size you need. Use it on a rotating mat. It'll flip right around and you can trim that up till you have a perfect hourglass just like that. I then pressed my seams opposite directions and spun the middle so it'd be nice and flat because there's a lot of seams there together. So if you're not aware how to do this little circular spin in the middle of your seams, just come see me and I'll show you. That's real easy and really nice for quilting. So that's how you're going to make your hourglasses. The next thing you're going to make is your flying geese. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with a big square on the bottom. You're going to put two small squares on top of that at opposite ends. You're going to do the same thing with your magic wand. Put it in the middle, mark on both sides, and then stitch on that line. That's going to give you this funny looking piece like this when you cut it down the middle, and like this. You're going to add a third square on top of that, so it looks like this. Do the same thing with your magic wand. Put that right in the center, mark on both sides, and stitch down the middle. You can see after I've stitched that, if I have a seam here, there's my flying geese right there. So now I've made two flying geese, and I just need to trim those down. Again, if you have never used the Block Flying Geese ruler, you should try it. You're going to love it. It locks right into the seam of your flying geese, and you can trim that up perfect so that you have your perfect 1/4 inch all the way around. It makes for amazing quilting and very precise piecing. So you'll really enjoy those. If you don't have one, I would highly recommend that. We do have backing. I think that is most of the tips that you'll need for this first month. You can always watch this video again. Don't forget, if you're local or want to take a weekend trip up here, we have a great retreat, but you can always come in and ask questions. We're happy to answer questions for you. We'd be happy to send you any tools you need too. You can give us a call or look online. Most of these tools we have on the website. The other thing I was going to say is we do have a limited supply of the backing available. This is the backing fabric. I need to place an order for more by September. If you would like this, please call the shop. And I just need a $30 deposit. You don't have to pay for all of it, but this is the backing that's recommended, and we'd love to be able to get it for you, so you just need to let us know you need it. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this quilt, and give us a shout if you have any questions.